Session to order, and it is a work session in preparation for our recess meeting of June 16th. And so we have a couple of opportunities to discuss things before we get to the actual agenda items. And the first one is we've got Edward's request. We've got, you want to do the introduction?
Sure.
All right, we'll let you do that. But I've got it written as a presentation from Josh Wooten, TVA, Jeff Atwell with Atwell Kent, and Brian Soulsby of the Starkville Energy Project as a new development on Industrial Park Road.
Yes.
So I will let
Thank you, Mayor, and Board, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about this project that has kind of been in the works for several months now. The Mayor and I talked earlier this week about there's no board action for this project at this meeting, but she thought it'd be a good idea just to kind of give an overview of where we are and a status update and a little bit more about the project. So I'd like to introduce, I'm just introducing, and they're going to talk a little bit more. We have Brian Soulsby here, who's the Executive Director of the Tennessee Municipal Electric Power Association. Brian has an interesting background in that he was a former utility manager in East Tennessee, also worked for TVA, and now serves as the Executive Director of the organization that represents all the municipals and municipal electric systems in Tennessee, which is 60 municipals, and all the Mississippi meetings are affiliate members since we don't have a statewide organization as well. We have Jeff Atwell here, who's going to talk a little bit about the, you can go to the next slide, Joel, and this is kind of the flow of the meeting here. We have, I'm sorry, I'd skip Josh Wooten. Josh Wooten with TVA that many of y'all know here. He's going to talk a little bit about the transmission study that's been done and some of the findings from that for this particular project. And then Jeff Atwell, many of y'all know from Atwell and Jim, is going to be here to talk a little bit about the Starkville Utilities system analysis study that's been done. So, of course, we can take questions at the end or anywhere along the way. And at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
And just for context, this has not gone before DRC or any of that sort of thing for site plan, but it's because data centers are such a topic these days, I thought it'd be appropriate for us to get a little bit of a background on this particular project.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor. And I think that that's a good segue. Certainly, as you use the term data center, you know, all data centers are not the same. I mean, I think that's the first thing that we need to establish. A lot of what you're hearing about in the news is the broad paintbrush, and that is not what this project is. And so I want to talk about specifically more what this project would be and what this project is not, and then certainly, you know, be happy to answer any questions. So we have worked with multiple of our utilities in Tennessee and have been able to successfully locate these projects, and I'll kind of talk about that from the context, and I have some photos from an existing location as well. And so, you know, this is going to be, it's on a proposed site in an existing industrial park adjacent to Starkville Utilities substation. It is a small operation in scale by classification, and they have done sound studies that put it in the 60 decibel level expected at the property line. And so, you know, again, the property line would be out by the road, and that would be equivalent to normal conversation. So, you know, think about that. I've also seen in the news, and that's why I don't want to put this in here, you know, these are heavy water consumers and things. And really most of the year they don't even use water. You know, during hot peak season they may use some water, but, you know, we look at it more from a retail building, you know, per se with regards to water, and not something that's going to create a strain on Starkville Utilities at all. There'd be limited traffic in and out of the site. You know, when we think about something industrial park, it's always the question, how many trucks are going in and out daily? You know, we need new roads, those kind of things. That's not what this site would be. And the client would pay all necessary infrastructure upgrades up front in order to be served by Starkville Utilities, which avoids placing the risk on any other Starkville Utilities customers. So, you know, again, I know that's been in the news of, oh, this is going to negatively impact other customers with regards to some data centers, and that's not what this project would do. So, you know, the project advantages is, you know, it obviously creates an addition to the property tax base. From an electric perspective, it's a great customer load profile. You know, this would be what an electric utility would consider a dream customer, because it's high load factor, good kilowatt hour cells. You don't have the sensitivities like you do with, you know, certain manufacturing where, you know, if there's harmonics issues, and certainly Jeff's more on that side, can get into that. That creates issues, concerns about, product with, power disruption, those kind of things. And rather, they would be an interruptible customer. What that means, and as Edward referenced, demand response. And I worked over the demand response group when I was at TVA 9 years ago. And, so that's when TVA feels like the grid as a whole, across the whole valley, is strained, and they go out to customers and ask them to curtail their load. And again, these are the favorable customers from TVA's perspective because they can drop the load and put no strain on the grid during those peak time frames. And they have done that effectively at sites such as the one up in Puryear in Tennessee, which I will show you pictures of here shortly. Thus, with that high load factor, good kilowatt hour sales, it becomes electric rate stabilization for all customers. I can take you to Murphy, North Carolina, where several cryptocurrency sites are. And I think they've had their first one 10 years ago, and that's been able to push rate increases out. It's also allowed them to fully fund their pension. It's allowed them to buy new equipment. It's allowed them to increase vegetation management, and thus provide better service and reliability to all their customers with less interruption. So it's been a very favorable, for example, in the case of Murphy, North Carolina. And of course, the system load factor impacts the wholesale power bill, etc. Now, what this project is not, I've kind of referenced it a little bit. This is no large hyperscaler. These are what we're seeing, largely in the news and getting the big news with XAI, Google, Facebook. Those are the ones that have made the pledge to the president about not impacting and paying their way, because these large hyperscalers would be like 5 to 10-fold, and maybe even 20 plus times larger than what this site would be here in Starkville with regards to a power consumption. And some of them, I know in Tennessee we had some legislation about wanting the desire to be a self-power generator. That gets into other permitting and other issues where they now have their own gas turbines on site. Again, you can see where that environmental impact would be larger. This would be a customer buying through Starkville Utilities, who's buying through TVA on TVA's balanced portfolio. This project is not a large water consumer. Again, it's just much smaller in size than some of these that you're seeing in the news, and being smaller has less lighting and noise issues to be concerned about. And like I said, from a rate perspective, there's no negative impact to the existing customer because they're paying their way up front, so there's not this investment cost that's being socialized across all customers. And because of the revenue off of it, it is actually going to benefit the other customers with regards to being able to use revenues off of this site, should it be approved, to handle capital projects, new equipment, etc. Other project sites that this company is currently operating, one I wanted to highlight is up in Puryear, Tennessee. Puryear, Tennessee is just outside of Paris, Tennessee, in Henry County, up on the Kentucky line. And that site's been operational for 2.5, 3 years. And then they've started construction recently on a site in Humboldt. Humboldt is just north of Jackson, Tennessee, and that construction just started in the last few weeks. And they have 4 sites operating in Arkansas. There are many, many more projects, but not that this client is operating, but other companies that are out there operating across Tennessee and across the TVA territory.
Do you have a picture of the one in Puryear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for teeing that up.
No problem.
And so, here's some pictures of what it looks like. You can see on the lower right, that would be the wall around the project. So again, it avoids any blight or any issues that may be perceived. You can see on the top left, that's the power distribution coming in to the facility. And again, these are rows of containers. And if you look here, you can kind of see a little closer in the bottom right. I mean, that's just a lot of computing servers, whatever you want to call them, all wired. That's doing that cryptocurrency mining. And so that's kind of what the project looks like from the outside and the inside. And so wanted to point that out to you with regards to that. And so before I hand it over to Josh, does anyone have any specific questions for me, or do you want to wait until the end and ask questions of all of us at the same time?
I see Alderman Bond's hand.
What decides you to pick this place, Starkville?
So basically the client, come to us because they're already working with utilities in Tennessee and said, are there other places out there that might be favorable? And so just conversation across our network, TVA serves 153 utilities. Edward is obviously Mississippi and I'm in Tennessee, but we get together routinely at TVA meetings and people talk about their successes. In the 14 Mississippi municipals are an affiliate member of TMEPA. And so, just always asking that question, hey, does anybody have capacity available that would be on a favorable site? And certainly, we think this is a favorable site.
I'm going to, Alderman Sistrunk, did you keep the audio?
I did not.
Did you not keep the audio? Okay, so full disclosure, Alderman Sistrunk and I took a Sunday and drove up to the Kentucky line to this particular site.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did on her phone, she did a decibel level deal, which was kind of why we went up there in the first place, is to understand what that impact was, because this would be situated for those who know Starkville, which all of y'all do. The old substation that sits on Industrial Park Road, that is this side of the Humane Society. So it is in that area, mildly dead ends there, and it's to the right of that. So, and the other thing that Alderman Vaughn is the proximity to the substation, which is that. But anyway, point being, the decibel level was such that neither one of us, certainly not me, I could hear a truck that was about 0.2 of a mile away. I could hear it, so it wasn't something that was drowning out any other noises around. There was a residence directly across the street from it. And so we kind of circled around, and it was not particularly, it wasn't offensive. I mean, it's the best way I can say it in terms of noise and actually in terms of visual, just for an industrial park area. So
One of the things that I'd been reading about in terms of environmental impact, because this location is across from the Humane Society and it's hard up against the sportsplex, was noise pollution, and both that could be detrimental with that particular location. But I did download an app. There's an app for that. And,
Of course there is, ma'am.
And the decibels were 40 to 60 was kind of a fluctuation. There was just a low hum that once you were, again, any distance at all away from it, it just faded into the background. What I have determined is that a lot depends on how these are cooled in terms of how much noise they make, because there's a similar project over in Columbus, a different company, and they use fans as opposed to, however this one is cooled, but they use fans that suck air in and out, and it is rackety loud. It would not be something that we would want at that location. So this one is much more palatable in terms of noise and that sort of thing than the one in Columbus, if you decide to drive over to Columbus and see what that operation looks like. So
anyway, it was interesting, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Me too.
I'll put it that way, because I had expected there to be far more. I mean, with the windows rolled up in the truck, I couldn't hear it. So
Yes, ma'am.
and I was predisposed to go, this is
Yeah.
just not acceptable.
yeah,
And
exactly. So anyway,
Well, thank you for that feedback, and certainly, to your question, I mean, I think this is a very favorable site, with location. Obviously, you don't want to be right next to a residential. You want to have some distance buffer, the sounds dissipate, as you noted. So I would say that probably from a 30,000 foot view, this is even a better site than the one in Puryear, and they've had zero issues or complaints with the one in Puryear. And so thank you, ma'am, both of you, for taking the time to go up there and seeing it firsthand.
a little road trip.
Yeah. Rural West Tennessee
That's
is
it.
something.
That's it.
They've
Well,
got
it's
interesting
actually
roads.
Southern Kentucky.
Yeah.
interesting roads, lots of four-lane.
Any other questions before I hand it over to Mr. Wu?
Anybody else? Okay, Josh?
Mayor and esteemed board, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate our collaboration and partnership we continue to have between TVA and the city of Starkville. and Starkville utilities. And so with regard to this project, Edward brought it to us, and TVA has, as you can imagine, the processes and requirements that we have for any load request, really above 5 megawatts is where our trigger point is. So this load request is 30 megawatts, and so we pass this on to our transmission group, and we report and adhere to the requirements from the North American Reliability Corporation, NERC. And so we report to them, as well as all the other generation and transmission utilities in America and Canada, and even as we go into Mexico, so north of Mexico. So there is a level of standards that we have to adhere to look at the bulk electric system, to make sure it's reliable and secure as we're adding load to the grid. And so we did that. They ran through different scenarios after putting this load on our models, and after running all those studies, there was one issue that would need to be mitigated, and so with that project, we did get confirmation that the load could connect as long as the company would sign their commitment to pay for that project under a project agreement, and that would be a tri-party agreement, pending approval of this project. So we've done our due diligence, and we have provided that estimated project and duration, but with it being approved to proceed if we have the project launched, we should be in really good shape. And so really it's as far as the network assignments, they were actually minimal, with only one upgrade, and it wasn't like a line upgrade, it was more in our relay protection, fast clearing improvement, more than anything else. So really it's the more, I guess the heavier lift is going to be on Jeff as far as any direct assignment and system improvements from his perspective. So any question for me?
Well, you said tri-party agreement. That would be the company, TVA, and the city of Starkville?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure I'm...
And really, from our perspective, even though the company would be the funding entity, we just want to make sure that we're working in alignment with our local power company, and that y'all are supportive of the project that we're embarking on. So,
Okay, just making sure I understood who the three parties were.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a question. So you were saying it would not affect the grid, correct? It would not affect the customers in Starkville, I'm sorry, as far as, was that cost or?
Well, there's one project that would have to be launched, a relay protection. In whenever we do our studies, we basically take, in the model, we take lines out, we take lines in, and see what the power flow looks like in those different scenarios, and if there's any type of triggers that are tripped, then we have to address those reliability issues. So there is one project that we would have to address, and it actually is not inside of Starkville, it's in the region. And so to answer your question, there was that one issue that we would need, from a reliability bulk electric system perspective, need to be addressed.
Well, that actually brings the next question, the region. So say that gets done and they agree to pay for that. Power coming into Starkville, and I know that the grid's been strained. Is this something that y'all can buy power from someone else to pass through, to where we're not doing rolling blackouts if it ever came to that? Like, is there a way to?
Yeah, so that is the reason why they do all these configuration studies. These studies with unique configurations. Like, if we get in a bind, what does that look like? And so, and Brian mentioned that interruptible power. So the company would be agreeable to saying, hey, TVA's in a bind, we will shed our load if we are called on. And so that is, part of that demand response program is part of that, eliminating that reliability concern.
Okay.
Is that something where you'd have to get in touch with them and say you need to shed your load now, or is it an automatic kind of thing, or? how's that
So
work?
we call on them, and there's expectations of responding within whether their contractual agreements are.
Okay. Okay, all right. Anybody else?
I got one for you.
Yes, sir.
Will the public be fully aware of this project before we do any
Oh, we're
consideration on
going, absolutely, we're gonna have public hearings.
You know, I recognize,
Vice Mayor?
I want to follow up on the gentleman from Seven Alderman on this, a very excellent question. The public needs to be fully informed, not only of this project, but every project that goes on in this city. And that is of grave concern of people throughout this city. And so I'm glad that you asked that question. I fully concur with you on that. Not to say that's not being done now, but we need to fully ensure that the public is fully informed before any decision is made about any project, whatever's going to be in the city. The public has a right to know, they have a right to be informed, they have a right to provide input. They should have a right to have a forum to come in and give whatever comments they want to. So gentlemen, I just wanted to get the floor to say great comments, and I fully concur. You, Mayor, thank you.
Anyone else? Great, thank you, Josh, appreciate it. And Jeff,
All right, thank you very much.
we don't get to see you very often.
Yeah, this is a rare thing. I appreciate y'all having me here, Mayor, Alderman. Edward, thanks.
You can advance this, right?
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you. I appreciate it. Awesome. So I'm going to do my best to not do the engineering thing and get way down into the weeds unless somebody really wants to, and I'll gladly do so. So I'm going to try to keep this very high level. We followed a very similar process as TVA, and we really try to answer three questions when we start the study process. Is one, what impact does this project have on the electric system under normal conditions? Two, what impact does this project have on the electric system for a contingency? We call it an N-1 contingency, where we lose a critical piece of equipment, a critical section of transmission line. We want to be sure that the system can respond properly and that we don't hamstring ourselves so that we can't do regular system maintenance or those types of activities. And the third is we want to be sure we look at the electric system and consider growth for the next 10 years. And again, also be sure that we are not precluding ourselves from low growth under normal or contingency conditions. So we went through that process. Just a real high level to understand how the Starkville electric system is configured. Starkville takes delivery from TVA at two locations at 161,000 volts. There's one at the Starkville primary substation that feeds the 69 kV loop, and there's also the Southwest Starkville primary substation, which we constructed 5 or 6 years ago, that also feeds the 69 kV transmission loop. So either of those primary substations can serve the entire transmission loop or any section of it. So the system's very adaptable depending on where load is, if we have to do maintenance, that sort of thing. We also have two 161 to 13 kV substations that are co-located. There's a northeast substation that's right adjacent to the primary substation, and then we have in the same yard the Southwest Starkville 13 kV substation that's not on the 69 loop, and that's I'll talk about that just a little bit more. It's a little nuanced. So that's the topology of the system. I went through that really quickly. Is there any questions about that? Okay. But where's my other slide? Okay, well, I'll just talk through it. What we did initially is the first thing we'll look at is the industrial substation, the old Southwest substation that's there on Industrial Drive, right across from Dancing Feet Academy or whatever it is now. I'm going back. That substation, when we built the new Southwest substation, it effectively became dedicated for Southwire and also any new industrial load that would develop in that area. Right now, that substation has about 3 megawatts of load on it from Southwire. The station is rated for 50 MVA, so if it was a car, it's idling. So we have a lot of capacity there. So adding 30 megawatts on this substation, we get a little over half loaded on the substation. So these facilities are there, they're readily available, so there's, yes ma'am.
So Southwire only uses 3. If they get, there's a project coming in.
Yes, ma'am.
That's supposed to expand to a certain extent. Do we know what that expansion would be if it happens?
You know, we guess double, yeah.
So
they
6?
said double.
Even if you say 10?
Mhm. And in our study, we assumed an additional 5 megawatts with Southwire, being
Okay.
pessimistic as engineers are. And so we have lots of capacity at that industrial site substation. And the other thing we looked at an industrial drive and distribution level is what happens if we take, it has 2 transformers. What if we take one of the transformers out of service? Let's say we need to do maintenance on it, it fails, whatever. Can we still serve that load? Does it cause any issues on the system? And we have a great deal of flexibility to shift this 30 megawatt load over onto the new Southwest Starkville primary substation. So that was a part of the plan. So there's no loading issues at industrial under either a normal situation or a contingency situation, even with load growth, 10 years of load growth and the Southwire additions. So we've got lots of capacity, which is a good thing down there. So the other thing that we get concerned about is on the, and let's see what I'm doing. Well, I'm not pointing very well. On the purple transmission loop, we want to be sure that if we have to take a section of that out, or if we have to take the Southwest Starkville primary substation out of service, will we be able to maintain that load? Under normal situations, the transmission loop loading is lightly loaded. With the added load, it's still only 50% loaded, so we have lots of capacity on the 69 kV transmission system, even factoring in the additional 30 megawatt load and also factoring in the Southwire load and 10-year growth. So lots of capacity, not an issue. That's true under normal loading. It's also true under contingency loading if we take a section out. So that all checked out really good. So then the only other thing that we get concerned about is if we lose one of the 161 to 69 kV transformers, either at primary substation or Southwest, that serves the transmission loop. That's how they get power. So if we had to take one of those out of service, if they failed, in either event, we want to look and be sure that the system will still respond appropriately, and it does. We still under contingency events with the 30 megawatts and the 5 megawatts of Southwire and load growth. We still operate fine. So we've modeled all those contingencies. So at a real high level, this added 30 megawatt load will have no impact on the electric system.
Bottom line, that one?
That's the bottom line.
Okay,
No
all right,
impacts.
all right. Alderman Moore, I saw your hand.
Well, and it slipped my mind. It'll come back. I'll ask it later.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Oh, wait, no, I remember. Okay. It was back to, you just said the contingency plan. If something goes sideways, and if we do end up going this route, is there a way that we can put a clause in there, for instance, that if something failed on y'all's end, we could shut power off to that data center to supply customers and residents of Starkville?
Yeah, you certainly, well, they're on an interruptible with TVA, and you could add it contractually with the city of Starkville as well.
Okay.
Everybody
Thank
has to be
you.
agreeable to it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The demand response program actually has an agreement that's signed by Starkville Utilities. And so that agreement will actually incorporate y'all. And so,
That's the tri-party?
well, that's another
Different
tri-party.
agreement? Okay.
That's
How many tri-parties are we?
That's a programmatic
Oh,
agreement.
okay.
The project agreement would address the project specifically.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right, we will move on. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Edward, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think at a future meeting that we'll have the 2 tri-party agreements. They obviously need to go through the public hearing and site planning, but for future board consideration, if it's appropriate, we'll bring the 2 tri-party agreements, one for the transmission upgrades, one one for the demand response.
Yeah.
And then we'll have 3 industrial power contracts for the board to consider. Each, he did mention a 30 megawatt load. There'll be 3 delivery points, each will be 10 megawatts each, and each has to have their own contract or their own agreement. One other thing that's included in that industrial power contract is all, we didn't really talk about system upgrades that are necessary to serve this load. It's around $800,000, I believe.
And it's literally just what's required to build from the substation to the site adjacent
To the site, right.
Yeah,
And a few substation improvements. That would be the responsibility of the developer to pay upfront, and that will be outlined in the industrial power contract too. That's kind of what Brian was alluding to earlier, that any and all expenses would be paid for upfront by the client, the developer, as part of that contract. So that's all.
Well, and there's lots yet to do before it even comes to the board, because there's all kinds of site plan and those sorts of things. But anyway, we are a more educated group as it relates to this type of data center. How about that? All right, and I put this on here, guys, the discussion of the short-term rental ordinance. This is not the meeting at which we'll have our first public hearing, but I wanted to see, I was going to go over real quickly with you some of the things that are in this amendment to the UDC to reflect that. And one of them is just obviously to include the short-term rental as a feature of this, because we had excluded it last time. So you can look and see, in particular, on this is page 2 of it, we've got one of the differences between it and the long-term rental is that it would need to be renewed annually. I left it at $15, which is not onerous for anybody, particularly if you only have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. But they do need to be renewed annually. Another piece of it that is not onerous, it's informational only, is the name and phone number of a responsible local contact. And then, let's see.
Do we define local?
I believe it's defined in there as someone within, where is it?
Would Columbus count as local or?
Well, could be.
Okay.
You got somebody who's managing it, but we can, again, and this is the first
Okay.
pass, so, this is the first time we will have an opportunity to look at it. This is the first draft, so there are many things that might be considered.
Within 1 hour, okay.
I'm sorry?
It says within 1 hour.
Yeah. Then the occupancy load for a short-term rental is 2 persons per legal bedroom plus 2 additional occupants. I think of them as sofa sleepers, for example. So, and then the requirement that you'll be posting the information associated with short-term rental, things like maximum occupancy, approved parking locations, noise and nuisance policies, trash disposal requirements, and that sort of thing. So I thought it was at least a good start. And the definition of short-term rental is residential use may operate only in zoning districts where residential use is permitted, and then hosted sharing, unhosted sharing, and dedicated vacation rentals. So anyway, just wanted to kind of highlight that. Again, we are obviously subject to all the public hearing elements that go with an ordinance change, but I did want to get the discussion started and put it in front of you. So anybody have anything they want to talk about as it relates to this at this point in time? Again, it is not on our agenda for the 16th. It'll be on the first public call on the 7th of July. So, all right, seeing none, we can move to our agenda. And then after that, we have a party. All right, this is for the 16th. We have 2 sets of minutes. Mr. Huskisson, are we good with those?
All good.
Okay, all good. Can we put consent on those? Okay. And then under mayor's comments, what I will do is I'll once again highlight Juneteenth, which is the 18th to the 21st. And then we'll talk about the July 4th celebration very briefly. And then we will have introductions of new employees. And then for today, just for FYI, we've got a Dizzy Dean tournament out at Cornerstone. So we've got a pretty active weekend for our folks who are enjoying our baseball facilities. So let's see, we've got no public appearances. We've got 2 public hearings. One is a special exception for mixed-use development on South Jackson. Mr. Haviland.
Yes, this is a development by Mark Hasselberry right on the corner of Jackson and Lampton. And basically the exceptions, there's 5 of them total. One of them is for the 5th story of the building, and the other 4 are related to the architecture of the building. Our architecture review consultant had looked at it. She thought that there was no issues with what they were proposing. Planning and zoning agreed with that assessment and made unanimously recommended approval.
Okay, and this is a very exciting project. I mean, that corner is so desperately in need. It would be wonderful to have a mixed-use development. sitting
Definitely
there.
changes that area.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, obviously, we will not have anything that's consent worthy on this as it's a public hearing, but that's number one. And the other one is an exception for cottage court.
Cottage court development is kind of a new style of development. It's basically, it's set up as a condo and not like a subdivision plat, but all the houses are required to be a little bit smaller, and they're like two-story houses, 1.5, 2-story, and they're all surrounded by a courtyard that opens up onto a public street. So where this one's located, there would be 2 courtyards, and they're proposing 2 courtyards, with a total of 14 buildings going around the courtyards that then opens up into the street. The architectures of the building, there's very specific requirements, and they have to vary from each other. So it's a really interesting project that kind of inserts this missing middle type residential development into that area, and it sort of picks up the density as you go down the street. So it's still residential, it's less intensive than commercial, but we require a special exception anytime one of these comes forward. This has to be the first one, and the Planning and Zoning Commission was really excited about it and recommended unanimously for approval.
What street is 509 close to, just for orientation purposes?
It's right in the middle of the block between Gillespie and 12.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. It's the 2 houses, when you go down there, there's 2 houses that are, have a carport that
Yeah.
are set far back from the street on real big lots. It's those 2 houses and then the one that's like, I think it's a townhome. So it's
Okay.
those 3 lots.
Cool, a little orientation there, thank you. Okay, again, that one's a public hearing, so nothing for us from a consent perspective. We have under mayor's business, the consideration of a resolution. This is a lien for 49 Choctaw, which we mowed, so if I could get consent for that one. Thank you. And then the special event request by Starkville's Juneteenth committee. This is to hold their event. It exceeded the normal amount of value that I could write off or I could approve. So this came to the board for that purpose. Can we consent for that one? Okay. And then a resolution for the combined water and sewer revenue bonds. We got a good rate on those. What was it?
I don't know, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry?
Object to consent.
Okay, all right. Nothing under airport, and then we have final plat approval for Cortland. Daniel, anything?
Yeah, this is a simple lot aggregation. There's an existing home and then they have a separate lot that's kind of their side yard, and they're just wanting to merge the 2 lots together.
Okay, all right. Anything about that one, consent for that one? Okay. Engineering, Chris, we've got installation of streetlights at Turnberry and Huxley, and that is coming through 4 county, right?
4 counties.
Okay, all right. Consent for that one? Okay. And then summary change order for Hannon LLC for 88 improvements. Consent for that one? Okay. And then we've skipped the claims docket, then we have financials. Anything about the financials, Webb?
No.
Okay. All right, consent for that. Privilege licenses, this is that acknowledgement that we're required to do. Consent for that one? And then budget adjustments, anything you want to highlight on those?
They're pretty minor, nothing out of fund balance, is all in existing revenue or just reclassifications. Biggest thing's the new restricted library fund, just setting it up, budgeting it for the money we received.
Okay, put it on consent.
Okay, all right. HR, we've got authorization to hire street maintenance workers, and this is replacement position. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Ashford?
That's
Nice
correct.
to see you
Thank
in the midst. Consent for that one?
Consent.
All right. And then Shalamark Simpson as a commercial driver. And he has worked with us before, and he's come back. So consent for that one? All right, thank you. IT, this is our dual multi-factor. This is a 3-year, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Yeah.
a 3-year renewal. The price is the same, and we can pay
Annually?
per year, but that locks in the price, which is
Yes.
nice.
And this is the thing that allows us to have more security.
That's right, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
okay. Consent for that one? Okay. Then code enforcement, we have these items that are mowing. This is the sub B of that 21-19-11, so could we get consent for those? All right. And then utilities. Edward, we have lift station rehab, advertising.
Yes, ma'am. This is for the Josie Creek lift station. They're adjacent to the North Star Park, and this is to go ahead and advertise for the long lead time materials, electrical components. primarily, and then there will be a subsequent request to advertise for the construction of that station once we get
Okay.
further along.
All right, consent for that one. And then low quote from Copper Top Sheet Metal. This is for the roof.
Roofs
Bluefield
for
plants?
3 water treatment facility locations, the Bluefield tank site, which is where also the old office is, the Bluefield booster station site, and the Parkdale water treatment plant site.
Okay, all right.
Are they gonna also fix the soffits, are they gonna fix the soffits and the rotting
Yeah.
underneath there too?
They
Okay.
are.
Consent for that one? Okay. And then last but not least, electric motor sales for repair and rebuild of the submersible pump at the wastewater
This is the
treatment plant.
wastewater treatment plant on the right.
Okay, consent for that one? All right, thank you. And then under executive session, we do have a potential litigation item. So, okay. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have, what time is it? We said, woo, we're running a little bit early. So we have a retirement party for Miss Michelle, who is with us 35 years and 9 months. And so we've got that at noon for those who wish to stay and wish her well in her retirement. So thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
I gotta go get this.